Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, given, of course, all our glory to Shema Mashiach, Malak Mashah, Slakia. Right? Giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh, Shema Mashiach, Malak Mashah. Double honors to the elected elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Malak Abishai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing the husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremother. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to everybody tuning in live. Yolanda Caesar, WFI Trinidad, Shalom Kings, Solomon McFadden, Ainan Shar, USA, Brother Believe, Kyoko Bunyamyan, HBK Ent, Nigel Blends, Richard Perez, Taylor C, Yafei Israel, K Paradise, Yazian David Yehuda Israel, T Sellers, HBK Ent, Princess to a King, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. WFI Law School, Uncleanliness and Purification in Childbirth. So I want to go into the book of Leviticus, the 12th chapter, go into Leviticus, the 15th chapter, and touch on what it means to be ritually or ceremonially unclean, and what does that mean, and what is the proper steps you're supposed to take. Go into the law of purification and just go straight into the Torah, because a lot of our people may actually be in sin. You may not even know that you're in sin, because sin is the transgression of the law. And last time I checked, there's over 600 laws and statutes and commandments that Yahweh Shai have given us. Outside of not eating pork, outside of not eating shrimp, crab, and lobster, there's more to it than growing your fringes out and wearing your beard. Right? You show your obedience to Yahweh Shai by you keeping the law, statutes, and the commandments. That's how you show your faith, by doing the works. Right? Let's go to the book of James. Right? So we want to actually understand that and really see if we serve the Most High. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Right? Before I go to James, let's go to Malachi chapter 3. Right? There's two types of people in the earth. You got people that serve the Most High. You got people that's not serving the Most High. This Malachi chapter 3 and verse 18. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. So there's no category of people that are trying to serve the Most High. I'm trying my best. I'm putting my best foot forward. I'm giving it an A for effort. No. Either you're serving the Most High or you're not serving the Most High. Either you're following the law, statutes, and the commandments through your faith, or you're not doing it. So the Most High is going to come down to the people that truly serve the Most High. The Lord said you're going to be able to discern between the righteous and the wicked. Who's the righteous? The people that serve the Most High. Who's the wicked? Him that serveth him not. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 22. Right? This is Ezekiel chapter 22 and verse 26. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned mine holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned among them. You see that? So the Most High said that in the ancient world, our priests were going off. The Levites, their job is to teach the law. All right? There were really two top men on the earth that were supposed to be masters of the law. One was from the tribe of Levi, the high priest, and there were other priests under him. And the other man that was supposed to be a master of the law was a Judite. He was the king. And Deuteronomy chapter 17, he's commanded to write a copy of the law. So he's supposed to be a master of the law, not just by copying it, but by living it and by judging matters according to the law. So in the ancient world, that began to fade away, and you had priests that were serving the gods of these other nations. When you read Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, or 2nd Chronicles, and these other accounts, the priests were going off. Read the book of Malachi. And they didn't show the difference between the unclean and the clean. And they didn't put a difference between the holy and profane. So there are laws that show you how to have wisdom to say this is holy, this is profane, right? This is unclean, and this is clean. And they don't do that in this man's world. Everything's unclean in America, man. You might have go and picked up an apple from the grocery store in the produce section, and then you might have had a woman on her flower, man. Or an Edomite that just got through playing with himself and touching a little boy. He picked up the apple and said, I'll put it back. Then you picked it up, man. Now that apple is defiled. The shopping cart is defiled. Everything's unclean and filthy because nobody's keeping the law here, man. Not now one commandment. So we're going to go into the law to show us how to be clean and how not to be unclean. It's not a sin to be unclean, but it is a sin if you don't follow the necessary rituals and ceremonial practices to make yourself clean at the allotted time given to you by the Most High. Right? Now let's go to Ecclesiasticus, the 18th chapter. Right? And if you willfully make yourself unclean in particular situations, you're going off. Right? Like if you willfully touch the carcass of a swan, that is a sin because the Most High told you not to do it. You didn't trip and fall and do it. Or if you willfully grab the carcass of an unclean animal, right? Then you have willfully made yourself unclean. Or you go and you dwell amongst the dead bodies after you purified yourself the third day. You're going off. So under certain circumstances, it was outside of your control. And we'll touch on that. And then other circumstances, some men very well knew that they were willingly making themselves unclean and yet went about that same way. All right. They did it intentionally. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 18 and verse 1. He that liveth forever created all things in general. The Lord only is righteous, and there is none other but he, who governeth the world with the palm of his hand, and all things obey his will. For he is the king of all, by his power dividing holy things among them from profane. So the Most High is holy. The Most High said, this is holy, meaning set apart, Kodash in the Hebrew. And this is something that is profane. Holy and profane, clean and unclean. Right? They're exact opposites. You can't be holy and unholy at the same time. So let's go into the laws of profanation and the laws of cleanliness. But we're going to start with Leviticus, the 12th chapter. Now, you can read about being unclean in many accounts. You can go all up and down Leviticus, right? Leviticus 11, I believe Leviticus 5, Leviticus 13, 14, 15, Leviticus 12, several chapters in Deuteronomy speaks about being unclean and being clean. So I'm not going to be able to cover every single circumstance of being clean and unclean, right? Time would fail me to do so, but I'll touch on key points mainly that our people deal with, right, in the land of the living. Because the Most High told us to rehearse the righteous acts, even though we don't have a temple, right? You don't have an actual high priest and, things of that nature. You're still commanded to follow these commandments, right? This is the book of Judges, chapter 5 and 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers and the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. So the Most High saying that this place of drawing water, and drawing water is a job for slaves. They were commanded to go to the well and draw water. That's a laborer's work. It's not easy. It's a matter of sweat and watching. And then you also have the noise of archers that represents captivity and war. So in a place of distress and war and slavery, the Most High is saying what? That we are going to rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, right? And that's what this is about, rehearsing the righteous acts of the Most High. So let's start with Leviticus chapter 12, right? Leviticus chapter 12. Now it says the laws of motherhood. It's really childbirth, purification, being clean, unclean. So we'll touch Leviticus 12 is only what, 8 verses? 8 verses. Then we'll touch on Numbers 15, right? So this is Leviticus chapter 12 and 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a woman have conceived seed and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. According to the days of the separation of her infirmity, shall she be unclean. And this wisdom is important because you got Israelites having children all day, every day, man. That's how you build a nation. You have Israelite children running rampant. Many children in WFI. You go to a feast, they running around and they getting into this, they sitting down and somebody said that Isaiah, then they playing with this. And I mean, there's children all over, you know? So we have to know as these marriages come together and the Most High honors that union by rewarding them with the son or with the daughter, you have to know what laws and commandments follow that. So this conceived seed, right? I mean, a woman is pregnant and she's going to give birth to a man child. A man child is an archaic way of saying a son, right? It reads, then she shall be unclean 7 days according to the days of the separation for infirmity, she'll be unclean. So pregnancy was a big deal for a woman to be able to conceive seed. Remember, you had Rachel who got emotional because she couldn't even bear a child. Nowadays, a woman is willingly going to abort her child. She'll pop a plan B. She'll stick her hand in there, a hanger. She'll take a baby and dump it in a damn trash can, right? I mean, all types of evil atrocities, man. But it was not so in the ancient world. Genesis chapter 30 and 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. If you don't give me children, I'm going to die. That's how the so-called black woman looked at childbirth some 4,000 plus years ago. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. And he said, am I in God's stead who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? Because the Most High, he's the one that's going to allow you to conceive seed. Man and woman they can know each other and lay down all day long, all night long, till the cows come home, right? But it's up to Yahweh Basham Yahushai to allow that child to be born in the womb. It's all up to the Most High. The Lord, what did the Lord tell Jeremiah? Right? The Lord said, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. So the Most High already knows what vessel he's going to send that spirit in. These spirits are up there already in the third heaven. And they're waiting to come down. But the Most High, he has to decide under what stock and seed line that child has to be regenerated back in. Because everybody's born again, right? You come back on the earth over and over and over again. We'll talk about that. So Genesis, it's like Jeremiah 1 and 5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. You see that? So the Most High ordained them a prophet unto the nations. Even before you're born, you're already chosen what your lot is going to be. So Jeremiah didn't have a say-so on what type of life he wanted to live. If Jeremiah wanted to be a blacksmith, he couldn't do it. If Jeremiah wanted to be a warrior and fight against the Assyrians and the Babylonians and the Philistines, he couldn't do it. Jeremiah was programmed, for lack of better terms, to be a prophet. And there's nothing he can do about it. Right? So when a woman conceives seed, that child inside of her was already set up. She has to understand that this child, this pregnancy is deep. And the child inside of her is alive in the spirit world. The spirit is alive. But the spirit has to come down, you know, from the Most High. And the Most High got to send it in the womb. Now, Esau don't tell you that. You take Esau's human development, family studies, his classes on childbirth and things of that nature. He doesn't tell you about the spiritual things, right? Because he's into money making and lust. That's his whole deal. His whole pregnancy and childbirth is money making and lust. Covetousness is all of that. Right? The same thing with the book with John the Baptist. This is Luke chapter 1 and verse 16. I'm gonna start at 15. I'm gonna start at 14. And thou shalt have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. This is speaking of John the Baptist. For he shall be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink, and he shall be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb. So whoever you are, you're in the truth right now, but your mother didn't know that you were chosen to be in Yahweh by Shema Shai before the foundation of the world. She didn't know that child that she was pregnant with, whether he was born in the 80s or the 90s or the 70s or the early 2000s or whatever. And that's heavy too, that your child at one time she had a son of God in her womb. Somebody she was going to bring forth that was going to come into the knowledge of the Most High. Right? Whether she had a prophet, or rather she had an apostle, or rather she had a brother that's to serve the Most High. Right? Or a daughter of Zion. So all of this is set up of old. And the Most High, what he does is he sends these spirits, back on the earth. This Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. So this means history, life cycles, it repeats itself. The thing that it's talking about is not a pencil. It's not a helmet. It's not a thumbtack. This thing that hath been and this thing that shall be, meaning it's coming back, this thing that repeats itself is explained in Ecclesiastes chapter 6. And this thing is called man. This is what the Bible calls regeneration. Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and 10. That which hath been is named already. So the thing that hath been, that which hath been, that is the thing. It's named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. So man that hath been is the man that shall be, and the man that is done is the man that shall be done, and there is no new man under the sun. Right? That's how you would break down Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 9. And speaking about how man grows up, man dies. Then once man dies, his spirit goes back in the spirit world. Then the Most High on the earth, he brings a man and a woman together. And then he decides to bring that spirit back on the earth every 3 or 4 generations. Then that woman is pregnant and she doesn't know what's going on. She's not understanding the spiritual things that pertain to life. Right? Ecclesiastes 1 and 10. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. So that baby that was born in that mother's womb, it was here before. A lot of babies come out, or children, they have tendencies as if they lived on the earth already. They have a certain demeanor, right? They have certain behavior. They say certain things. And I'm sure these are things that you may have seen before, you know? So you have children that are born back on earth, but they don't remember who they were back in the ancient times. There is no remembrance of former things. Neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So the child in the mother's womb, the child doesn't remember what it did 2,000 years ago, 800 years ago. It doesn't remember that. That thing starts fresh. And once a man impregnates a woman, the Most High, he calls that time period the time of life. Right? So that conceiving a seed is called the time of life. Let's go to Genesis chapter 18. Right? This is Genesis. But Esau calls it, he calls it your gestation period. The Bible calls it the time of life. Right? This is Genesis chapter 18 and 14. I'm going to start at 13. And Yahweh said unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I of a surety bear a child, which am old? Right, and that's why Isaac means laughter. Yatazakak in the Hebrew. Right, because Sarah laughed. Verse 14, is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed will I return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. So from the time that the Most High sends that spirit back in the womb, which is the conception, until the time that child is born, it is called the time of life, according to the time of life, right? Which is that 9 months, sometimes 10 months. Like Solomon's time of life was 10 months, right? Let's go to 2 Kings, right? I had a few precepts written down. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 4, right? 2 Kings chapter 4 and verse 16. I'm going to start at 14. And he said, what then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, verily she hath no child, and her husband is old. See that, like Sarah. And he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. This is the woman that was helping out Elisha. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaid. Because she was kind of in shock, right? She didn't want to believe it, but because she was so old, you know. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. So that's that 9 to 10 months. Remember, Esau calls it, let's pull that up, your so-called gestation period. All right. The unborn baby spends about 38 weeks in the uterus, but the average length of pregnancy or gestation is at 40 weeks. See that? 40 is spiritual. See that? Pregnancy is counted from the first day of the woman's last period, not the date of conception, which generally occurs 2 weeks later. So the Most High, he's dealing with that, the time of conception. All right. So 40 weeks through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Now, when you go to Wisdom of Solomon, like I said, or like the scripture says, rather, Solomon was in the womb for 10 months. Right? This Wisdom of Solomon is like in chapter 7. That's what I want. Right? This Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 1. It reads, I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth, because he comes out of Adam too. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man and the pleasure that came with sleep. So what's the pleasure that come with sleep? When you lay down with your woman, bro. So he was compacted of blood of the seed of man. And how long was he in that womb? 10 months, right? 10 months. It could be 9 months. In the ancient world, you had these times where it was also 10 months, according to the spirit. Right now, he says being compacted of blood and of the seed of man. Let's go to Second Ezra, chapter 8. Right, and these are things that we should have learned growing up in this man society. But this society is so wicked. The most Jake you'll get about this is in damn sex ed class, man. And now, I mean, what you got some old creepy white man sitting behind a desk, getting aroused as he teaches a child a class of children the ins and outs, man, of what the man does with a woman. He's sitting behind the desk, refused to get up because he's freaking off, man, as he sticks in that nasty VHS tape. Right, that's what they used to do. You had that TV with the straps on it so it didn't fall. You had the VCR, and you take your damn VHS tape, cassette tape, whatever, and you put it in there, man. You know, and they press play and they rewind. And it's kind of staticky, and right then they point out the diagram. What's this? What's that? So that's perversion. How do you have your enemy teaching you about what the Most High has done? Right. So this now they got sodomites in there, and they have guest speakers. They have transforming guest speakers showing you. See, back growing up, it was so-called heterosexual. It was only a man and a woman. Now they showing you so-called sex ed with man and a man. Okay, here's a woman and a woman. Okay, here's a transformer and a transformer. Okay, here's a man. Okay, here's a horse right here. Okay, when the horse says nay, you. So that this whole society is corrupt. Right? This second Ezra. So we got to go back over the basics. Second Ezra chapter 8 and verse 8. For when the body is fashioned, now in the mother's womb, thou givest it members. So the Most High, he gives the arms and the legs, and he puts this thing together. Thy creature is preserved in fire and water, and 9 months doeth thy workmanship endure, thy creature which is created in her. You see that? So the Most High said the creature, which is man, is preserved in fire and water. So the water is the water in the mother's womb. That's why women's water break, etc. Right? But the fire is the spirit inside of you. We all have fire inside of us. Your fire set at a set. That's why they call it okay, everybody has 98.6, right? Your temperature. And most I could turn that fire up. You can overheat. Some people could spontaneous combust. That's an actual thing. You could just be sitting there, and then the Most High could turn that fire up, and you could just explode. I don't want that. Right? Let's see. See that? Spontaneous combustion or spontaneous ignition, as it is often called, is the occurrence of fire without the application of an external heat source. Right? So the Most High said this thing you could just be sitting there. It could just explode, man. There's actual accounts. People just sitting there, start smelling, they smell smoky, man. They know they weren't cooking, right? They looking around, and they're the ones that's cooking, because the Most High is about to light them on fire. So you could be preserved in fire and water. So the fire is the spirit, and the water is you being preserved in your mother's womb. And that's you're born in a perfect balance, in perfect harmony. You're born in equity with fire and water. You're born in a just balance. You understand? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Right? Let's go to the book of. Let's move on. Right? Let's go back to Leviticus 12. Right? Slaki, I want to make sure I had the precepts I wanted to get. Yeah, actually, let's go to Micah chapter 4, right? Micah chapter 4 and verse 10. So we're still dealing with childbirth, right? And pregnancy and a womb. And really, when you're in your mother's womb, right, the Most High actually records that, right? Let's go to Psalm chapter 139, right? The Most High actually records you in your mother's womb. It reads Psalms 139 and 13. For thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. See that? Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. So your substance is you in that what Esau calls your embryo, embryonic stage. So just because you're in your mother's womb as an embryo doesn't mean the Most High can't see you. No, there's angels watching you, man. How do you think the account of Jacob and Esau fighting in the womb is there? Because the Most High sees that, man. And they struggled in the womb. So the Lord saw Jacob beating Esau down, man. Thine eyes, which are his angels, thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, because you're not born yet. You're not perfect yet. And in thy book, all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, as when as yet there was none of them, because you grow in continuance, and your members are fashioned. You understand? And you grow arms and hey, watch your baby in the as an embryo, how they turn and they grow and they develop, right? But the Most High has all of your members and your body parts and your height and how many damn what they call them, your pores you got, your fingerprints and your so-called DNA. Esau has all of that, man. Where did he get it from? He got it from the Most High. Because the Most High got your blueprint, right? He got your fingerprints. He got your damn DNA. He got your genetics. He knows how many hairs are on your head. He said the hairs of your head are numbered. It's all recorded by the angels, right? So even you being an embryo in your mother's womb is recorded. There's nothing that the Bible doesn't touch on. It touches from the time you die to the time you're born back on the earth. This is Job chapter 10 and 10. It reads, Hast thou, I'm going to start at 9. Remember, I beseech thee, that thou hast made me as the clay, and wilt thou bring me into dust again? Because man is born out of the dust of the ground. Now check this out. Hast thou not poured me out as milk and curdled me like cheese? What is this talking about? When you're born. Poured out like milk and curdled me like cheese. He's speaking about birth. Thou hast clothed me with skin and flesh, and hast fenced me in with bones and sinews. Thou hast granted me life and favor, and thy visitation hath preserved my spirit. So hast thou not poured me out as milk and curdled me like cheese? So the Lord is likening the birth of a child to a transformation of milk to cheese. So you start off as as nothing essentially, and then the Most High forms you into a solid substance. Just look how cheese is formed, right? Look how the Most High takes, or a farmer, you can look up a video, right? How you take milk and you can shake it, leave it out, and it slowly forms that white substance like cheese, right? If you look up, and then you clothe it with skin. Then the Most High put skin on it and flesh. Then the Most High give it bones, right? So the Most High, he speaks of the creation explicitly in the scriptures. Now check this out. So here's Job chapter 10. Quick video how fertilization happens. I'm not going to play the whole video. If you want to watch the whole minute, 20 seconds, you can watch the whole minute and do your thing, right? So that's essentially what Job is saying. You pour me out like milk, but you turn me to cheese because you turning me to a definite shape. You're providing me with a solid shape. See that? So that's that forming from milk to cheese, or forming from an indefinite uh, um, substance to something with a defined shape. See that? So that's the same thing that we read about in Job chapter 10. Then the Most High clothe them with skin, then they get bones, and they get teeth, and they get muscles, and they get intestines, and they grow. And the angels are watching them grow in their mother's womb. You see that? And then when those 9 months come, let's go to the book of Micah. All right, let's go to Micah 5. Micah chapter 5 and 3. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. So this is speaking about our deliverance, but it's still speaking about a woman bringing forth during her what? Delivery, right? She went through her 9 months and now she's bringing forth the child. But the Most High is likening our deliverance, and it's prevalent throughout the scriptures. Our deliverance is likened to a woman bringing forth children, right? Or bringing forth the son. And we've been over this. That's why as a woman's pregnancy reaches the end, the pain increases. She really can't walk like that. And then when it's time for this baby to come out, the contractions get closer and closer, and the labor pains increase exponentially. And the closer the contractions get, the closer that baby being delivered. It's like the closer the contractions get, the closer the baby being delivered is. And that's how we are in these last days. The contractions are getting closer and closer. There's war between Iran and potentially Iraq now. Now they're saying Russia is about to start World War III. You got economic collapse. You got civil unrest coming. So this deliverance is about to be born. And we're going to return to the Most High. So again, the dynamics of pregnancy are also applied to prophecy as well throughout the scriptures. So that conceiving seed in Leviticus chapter 12 has a heavy background with it, right? In Leviticus chapter 12. Now, the latter part says, we went over conceived seed from the time of regeneration until the time you formed in the womb. Then you are born after the time of life. Then she shall be unclean 7 days. 7 days is perfection, completion. All right, that's what 7 is. Right? You read Joshua 6 and 3, Psalms 12 and 6, and many other like precepts speak about 7 being a number of completion and or perfection. Now it says, according to the days of the separation of her infirmity, shall she be unclean. Right? Meaning she's unclean according to the time when she has her flower, her monthly flower. That's what it means. According to the days of the separation for her infirmity, shall she be unclean. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 15. Right? Because a woman is unclean during that time. Right? When she's on her flower. Leviticus chapter 15 and verse Salakia 12. Actually, I want Salakia 19. Leviticus chapter 15 and 19. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue and her flesh be blood, right? When it says her flesh, it's not talking about her arm, right? Or the flesh on my arm, or the flesh on her neck, or the flesh on her thigh, or she got a pimple and she popped the pimple, did blood come out? And what if I pop my pimple and blood? That's not what it's talking about, right? This flesh is talking about her vagina. I just got to put it out there because Jake Well, he did say, he said her secret parts, or he said, her between her feet, and I don't know what that means. No, it is what it is, man. Right? So if she's on her period, her menstrual cycle, her moon, her flower, she shall be put apart 7 days. And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean unto the even. So that's the law. She's put apart 7 days. In the ancient world, men had rooms for their other wives, or they had harems, and a woman had different spaces, or they had tents. In the earlier patriarchal period, right, of our forefathers, they would have these different tents. Nevertheless, in today's time, don't be all laid up. Don't be laid up with your woman, man, on her flower. Ain't no what Jake say, I don't care about none of that. I'm grown. No, brother, you're wicked, huh? I don't care. Ain't nothing stopping me. I'm a grown man. That don't mean nothing. That right there ain't nothing to me. No, that's worldly and that's abominable, man. And you're gonna be jammed up by the Most High if you have that mentality where nothing can stop me, man. Right? Well, the Most High should be stopping you, man, because the Most High is telling you what things are permissible and what things are just unlawful, man. So don't be just sitting up there. Oh, she said, well, that's my time of the month. And then you start getting enticed, man. No, she's put apart 7 days. And she said, well, baby, I'm cold. Can you lay with me? Oh, baby, just come over. Hey, no. Now, you don't have to say no like that. Hey, but you got to keep this law, huh? Some jakes don't, you have no honor. Right? You have no honor. You just have no class, man. Yeah, like Louis Fambro, lay the towel down, spirit. Just lay the towel down. That's wicked. Right? So let's move on. So she's supposed to be put apart 7 days. Don't be all caked up, laying up. What are you watching the movie? She moving around her damn pad, and no, man. So this place is defiled. And these women of the world, they're not being put apart 7 days, man. I saw this video, this woman, they was having a celebration. I think it was in Northern Kingdom. I could be wrong. I believe it was Northern Kingdom. I don't know if it was a baby shower or what. But this guy, he picks up the woman. Like he picks her up with her legs, and she's on his neck, essentially, like you carry your child or your son or your daughter when you're walking down the park or whatever. So he pick up the woman, then he walking with the woman, then the woman kind of fall or she get off. And then the guy, he got a damn pad on his neck, man. And the crowd, they kind of get quiet. And they kind of looking at this guy. And this guy is trying to figure out what's going on. Well, she's supposed to be put apart 7 days, man. That's supposed to be having a damn pad on your neck. Right? That's abominable. So, when a woman is pregnant and she brings forth her child, she's supposed to be put apart 7 days. That's what it means when it says, according to the days of the separation for her infirmity. Her infirmity and her separation is based off of the time of her monthly cycle. Right? Let's move on. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. So you're supposed to circumcise your son on the 8th day. And that's a habit that brothers should be getting into. It's a law, right? There was a brother who used to be in Babylon the Great. He teach classes now, right, on circumcision. Right? I know a lot of brothers in WFI, they went to this brother. He did a beautiful job, man. He circumcised a lot of sons and watchmen for Israel on the 8th day, man. Right? It was a beautiful ceremony. It went well. Everything was perfect, man. And the Most High was with that brother's spirit in his hands as he guided them wittingly to deliver a powerful, righteous circumcision and bringing in another son of Israel to the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the Most High. So you're supposed to do it on the 8th day. Don't do your own thing. I would have do it on the 7th day because I want to do it early. No, you're going to be jammed up. Don't play around with the circumcision. Go to Genesis chapter 17. Right? You can play around with the circumcision. Something going to get cut, and it ain't going to be the foreskin. Right? Genesis chapter 17 and verse 10. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. And it says he, because you got Africans and Hamites, they got something called a female circumcision. That's an actual thing. They'll take a woman and they'll circumcise the woman. Am I going to go into all of the details behind it tonight? No. But that's an actual thing. It says he. So you Hamites are off too. That is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. So 8 days. Now, 8 days, when you go into it, let's pull this up. Right? This is Salakia, a website, right? Quick site. Why the 8th day? Scientific evidence, this is evidence for the Bible, for a circumcision on the 8th day. So when you dive into it, the 8th day has spiritual connotations because the number 8, it means perpetual or infinity or everlasting, right? Symbolic of the everlasting covenant between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his seed and the Most High, right? That's what the number 8 represents on a spiritual level. But 8, even on the biological level, on that 8th day, it's the day when a body kicks in the most vitamin K. And it produces something called, as we dive into it, prothrombin. And that allows your blood to be able to clot. So when you circumcise them, the baby doesn't bleed out. And it only happens chiefly on the 8th day. Every scholar, every scientist will confirm that. It is a well-known fact. So let's jump down. Right? So hold on. Let's jump down. So when you look it up, Salakia, it's a little bit of delay. Right? Bear with me. Right? Salakia. So this is something you could you can go to your local library and go to the health section and you'll find this. So you look at this, right? And they got the different days. Right now, your vitamin K start kicking in within that first, second to third day. But on the 8th day, for some odd reason, right, quote unquote, it's the highest. Why is it the highest? Because that's the day that the Most High wanted to get done, right? And that's the day that the Most High have where your blood could be able to deal with the actual circumcision. All right? That's when your body can actually not bleed out, right? And your blood can clot. Now, it says, so like I said, this thing is, there's a little bit of a delay. Okay, it reads, the human body has 2 blood clotting elements. One of them is called vitamin K. Vitamin K is not formed in the body until the 5th to the 7th day. That's why a lot of these circumcisions that Esau do in the hospital, these babies be getting all jammed up. They be bleeding out. It put spirits on them. They be getting sick. right? Then Esau tried to solve it. They try to jack more sorcery into him, because that stuff don't kick in to the 5th and the 7th day. So they got to do replace I can't think of the medical term, but they have to do a artificial vitamin K or vitamin K supplement and inject it into them instead of letting the body do its actual job. The second clotting factor, which is essential, is called prothrombin. Prothrombin. It surprisingly enough develops to 30% of normal by the 3rd day of life. After that, with seeming inconsequence, peaks at 110%. Let me read that again. Peaks at 110% on the 8th day, just before leveling off at 100% of normal. So on the 8th day, it's 110%. Then it kind of goes back to be normal. Right? If vitamin K is not present when the baby boy is circumcised, the baby will bleed to death. The reason why Yahweh established day 8 for circumcision is that vitamin K peaks in a newborn at 8 days of age. The 8th day is the optimum day for circumcision because of the highest presence of the clotting factor, vitamin K. So again, that's what the Mosai said. This thing has to go down, not when you want it to go down. This circumcision has to happen on the 8th day. Right? It has to happen on the 8th day. Yahweh Shah was circumcised on the 8th day. Let's go to Luke. Right? Isaac was circumcised on the 8th day. Hell, even Jacob and Esau, they were both circumcised on the 8th day. This is Luke chapter 2 and 21. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Yahweh Shai, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And when the days of her purification, according to the law of Moses, were accomplished, they brought him into Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. Now, we'll touch on the days of her purification, right? We'll touch on that. There's a woman, she set apart her initial 7 days for a man child, and then it's Slakia. Then it's 33 days after. So it peaks off at 40 days. According to the law of Moses, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As it is written in the law of the Lord, every male that openeth the womb shall be holy to the Lord. Now remember, Yahweh Shai was the firstborn child, chiefly the firstborn son. So according to the law, they have to present Yahweh Shai to the temple because he belongs to the Most High. Let's get that in the book of Exodus, chapter 13. If you had a firstborn son in the ancient world, or a firstborn, it would be brought to the temple. This Exodus chapter 13 and 2. Sanctify unto me all the firstborn. Whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine. So it belongs to the Most High. So in order for you to keep your child, you have to redeem your child. You have to redeem the firstborn. How do you redeem the firstborn? Through payment. Let's go to Numbers chapter 18. If you don't pay the redemption fee, for lack of better terms, then you don't keep your child. Essentially, right? This is Numbers chapter 18 and verse 15. Everything that openeth the matrix. The matrix is not where Neo and Morpheus and no, the matrix means your mother's womb. That's literally what the word matrix means. Right? Let me pull that real quick. Here's what the word matrix means. Matrix. Matrix comes from the Latin mater, which means mother. Matrix, uterus or womb. From the Old French matrice, which means womb or uterus. From the Latin mater, meaning mother. Okay, so the word matrix literally means mother and its purest essence, its etymology. So in Numbers chapter 18 and 5, 18 and 15, everything that openeth the matrix in all flesh, which they bring unto Yahweh, whether it be of men or beast, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shalt thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts shalt thou redeem. So man was redeemed by his folks, man. Right? And you would pay a particular amount of shekels to the temple. And then you would take your son back and raise him as an Israelite prince. That's how it worked in the ancient world. So Yahweh Shah was presented to the temple, right? And he was circumcised the 8th day. This is Luke chapter 2 and 23. As it is written in the law of the Lord, every male that openeth the womb shall be called holy to the Lord. So that's plain. Let's go back to Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 12 and verse 4. And she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 3 and 30 days. She shall touch no hallowed thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. So she can't, the hallowed thing are like peace offerings, right? Which is something that she may have wanted to do with her husband, but she can't touch that thing. She can't come into the sanctuary. She can't come into that until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. That's why Mary had to wait those 40 days until the days were fulfilled. And then she appeared before the temple. Right? Let's read on. But if she bear a maid child, meaning a girl, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her separation. And she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. So if she's bearing a girl, then she's put apart 14 days. So it's at 7 days times 2, and it's a 33 days times 2. That's why you got 14 days, which are these 2 weeks. Then you have 66, which is what? 66. So 14 to 66 is 80. For a son, it's 40 days. For a daughter, it's 80 days. Now you can say, well, why is a woman longer? Well, remember, a woman, first of all, biblically and spiritually is a weaker vessel, right? So it's going to, as a weaker vessel, the purification and the separation is extended, right? Because it's a weaker vessel. I'm not saying a woman is nothing and she just should be. No, it's just the scriptures are the scriptures, right? Right? They're made with their own particular purpose, right? This is First Peter chapter 3 and 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So they are the weaker vessel. Right now, another reason, more so on a so-called scientific level, is when you have a daughter, a lot of girls, right, they also bleed, right? So they're naturally, for the most part, a lot of them when they're born, right, within those first few days, they're also bleeding, right? And that happens a lot with girls that are born, right? It reads, your newborn girl's genitals have been exposed to many hormones in the uterus. Among other things, these hormones may have made the outside wall of the vagina, right, a little swollen and prominent, and caused a thick and milky discharge in the vagina. Most dramatically, at 2 or 3 days of age, your daughter may have a little bleeding from their vagina. So that happens, right? You have discharge, right? You have bleeding. The woman is the weaker vessel. So there's a lot more uncleanness that comes with that than having a son. All right. A son doesn't have that. He's not going to be born and then, okay, now he's bleeding. Okay, and now he has to be put apart too. And no, right? The woman is already unclean, and then the daughter, she's being born unclean too. So it's essentially, it takes that purification separation and it's extended. So you have 40 days for a son and you have 80 days for a girl. Partially because a woman is a weaker vessel, and partially due to a lot of discharge and a lot of so-called biological things that the girl may go through that the son isn't going to go through. Right? That's just the way it is. You don't get emotional. Well, no, I feel like the woman should be 40 days too, and that's too long. What if my woman wants to do this? Or if the woman want to do something, she should want to follow the scriptures. All right. Well, that's too long. My woman, she gotta do this. And again, how many of these nations are following this, man? Nobody's keeping these commandments. You got this woman, one of these rapping women twerking on the damn stage, man. You think she's gonna keep that commandment? You know? I think one of them was like 8 months pregnant. And they had a microphone in their hand, man. And it was in a nightclub. Freaking off. So they're not going to follow that law. And a lot of women, they got to be set apart, because a woman, after she gives birth to a child, she's still dealing with stuff, man. She still got to, first of all, she got to get her body right, because her body is still dealing with a lot of discharge, a lot of fluids, you know, leaking, blood. And there's a lot, man, that goes with that. Am I going to go into every detail and name everything that's coming out of a woman? No. Right? But obviously a woman has to be set apart for all of that to be cleansed and purified, and for her body to heal. Right? So Leviticus 12:6. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priest, who shall offer it before the Lord and make an atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the issue of her blood. This is the law for her that hath borne a male or a female. And if she be not able to bring a lamb, then she shall bring 2 turtles. Those are turtle doves. Not, a brother asked me, why would the Most High say bring 2 turtles? Don't they have a shell? Aren't they unclean? It's not talking about actual turtles. Right? These are turtle doves, birds. Then she shall bring 2 turtles, or 2 young pigeons, the one for the burnt offering, and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for her, and she shall be clean. Right now, she's not doing a sin offering because she's wicked. It's not wicked to have a child. But nevertheless, man, this is really to purify, right? And man is sinful by nature. Man goes off by nature anyway. So you bring that child in, you're essentially bringing a sin into the world, right? And it's to purify them as well. So this goes into childbirth. And then when you jump into Leviticus chapter 15, right? Let's jump into Leviticus chapter 15. Leviticus chapter 15 deals with other laws of cleanliness. It reads, and the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue, he is unclean. So 2 things I want to touch on: a running issue in flesh. When it says flesh, It's not talking about your hand or your neck or your face or your stomach. Your flesh that it's talking about is a man's rod, his genitals. All right, that's what it's talking about. It's saying, see, the Bible, when you read the scriptures, the Most High deals with, and we brought it up before again, the Most High deals with the euphemisms. So there's a lot of words put in there, put into the scriptures to not be direct. Like it doesn't say Adam has sex with Eve. No, the euphemism for sex is Adam knew his wife, right? When the Most High speaks of a man's sperm, he doesn't say, oh, his sperm went into her vagina. No, the Most High said his seed is in that soil. It is not the land greatly defiled. So you got to pick up what the Most High is putting down. You got to remember the Most High, he's a so-called black man, you know? And we're made in his image. So there's a lot of slang and hip talk that's in the scriptures. And if you don't pick it up, you're going to fall. So let's go and show you that this flesh, because a lot of brothers don't know what this flesh is actually talking about. This running issue is speaking about something in your penis, right? So let's pull it up. That's why we have to go through the precepts. We have to get the law, right? Let's go to Ezekiel 16, right? And I had the precepts, right? Well, a few of them. Ezekiel chapter 16 and 26. Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and has increased thy whoredoms to provoke me to anger. Now, what does it mean the Most High said that we were committing fornication with the Egyptians and they had greater flesh? Now, I'm going to break it down in a non-discrete manner for those that don't understand, right? But if you're in the spirit, you know exactly what the Most High is saying and the analogy he's using. First, on a spiritual level, we're committing spiritual fornication with the Egyptians who are heavy idolaters. They're heavy idolaters. But if you're like an Edomite or one of the nations, you might take this literal. Wow, the Israelites was having sex with the Egyptians, and the Egyptians had big genitalia. That's why would God say that? That's not what it's talking about. Great, see, the flesh is talking about your rod, but it's likening the heavy idolatry to the length of a rod. I'm just putting it out there. Because otherwise, if we don't explain the Bible, Jake will never get it. That's why it says greater flesh. Now, let's pull it up in another translation. You may say, well, Naquam, you're going off. Right? You finally did it. I knew you would go off. No, that's exactly what it's talking about, right? And let's get another translation. Right? Sometimes you may have to go to another translation, right, to help be a witness for you, right? So let me pull this up, Salakia. Ezekiel, I want chapter 16 and verse 26. And I want to get, and there's other precepts I want to get to, but let me get this first. Right, Salakia, if it is delayed. Right, let's go to Ezekiel 16 and 26. Right, so check this out. That's why we have to go through this, right? I gotta, just gotta make it plain upon tables, man. Right, so bear with me and my vulgarity, if that's a word. Right, so let's pull this up. Now this is Ezekiel 16 and 26. Right, in multiple or parallel translations. Right, let me make sure this is still loading up. I was just taking all day. All right. So Salakia. I may just pull it up. Let me see real quick. All right, if it's taking all that's Satan right there. Let me pull it up, and I may just read it. Right, it may load up by the time I'm done, but if not, let me try again. Right, let's try again. Let's see. Okay, here we are. All right, check this out. Right, Ezekiel chapter 16 and 26. You prostitute. I'll read the NLT. Then you added lustful Egypt to your lovers, provoking my anger with your increasing promiscuity. Right, what's another one? Let's see. New KJV. You also committed harlotry with the Egyptians, your very fleshly neighbors, and increased your acts of harlotry to provoke me to anger. Right? Let's see. ESV. You also played the whore with the Egyptians, your lustful neighbors, multiplying your whoring to provoke me to anger. Right? So it's telling you straight up, it's dealing with idolatry. ABPE, and you fornicated with the children of Egypt, your neighbor, great ones of flesh. Right? We know what great ones of flesh are. All right, great ones of flesh. Greater flesh, great. Now check this out. New AB, right? Because they was being shot. The new AB, you don't read the NET. You served as a prostitute with the Egyptians. You're a big membered neighbors. Right? And multiplied your prostitution to provoke me. So it's saying you're big membered neighbors. But in the KJV, it says greater flesh. NET. You engaged in prostitution with the Egyptians, your sexually aroused neighbors, multiplying your promiscuity and provoking me to anger. So that's what it's talking about, right? Your big membered neighbors. So even though it says greater flesh, right? Greater flesh is talking about what we know it's talking about. If you don't know what it's talking about by now, then you need to pray and fast. Because I'm not going to do an in-depth lesson on greater flesh. Ezekiel chapter 23 and 20. Now here's another one. These are called euphemisms. For she doted upon their paramours, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses. Well, what is that talking about? And whose issue is like the issue of horses. What could this be talking about? So the Bible is not for little children, man. Or certain accounts, right? I'm not going to say that, but certain accounts, you got to really break it down. What does it mean whose flesh is as the flesh of asses? What mean what we just went into? So the word flesh is often used as a euphemism to describe male genitalia. But this is speaking about how Israel went off and they were serving the gods of the Assyrians and the Egyptians, the Babylonians, and all these other nations. Right? Let's get another one. Right? So this is biblical euphemisms. Pull up the definition of euphemism. That's going to help you understand the law. A mild or indirect word or expression substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt. Right, so it's the polite term, a mild alternative. All right, let's get another one. Like, what's the main euphemism in the Bible? When a man knows his wife. Right? Let's get another one. There's a euphemism for females. Right? For female genitalia and female secret parts. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 57. And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet. What does that mean? She come out from between her feet. What's between a woman's feet? You might have a brother say, well, you got to think about it. Well, between her feet, she got pores. She may have hair. She has a thigh. She might have, what if she has pants on? Did you think that's not, if that's, right? You got to get your mind right. That's not what it's talking about. Between her feet, it's talking about her secret parts. And toward her children, which she shall bear. For she shall eat them for the want of all things secretly, and the siege and straightness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. Right? Let's go to Leviticus 15, 24. Right? Let's get one more example. We know that word flesh is talking about not just anything in your body. All right? That's where you have to have the discernment in the precepts. Leviticus 15 and 24. And now where's the euphemism in this one? And if a man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him. What are the flowers? Okay, are those daffodils, roses, lilies? No, huh? The flowers that are upon him is a biblical euphemism for her period blood or menstrual cycle. But the Most High, he deals with discretion. And the Bible is written in code, even in the law. Flowers, flesh, even in the law in Deuteronomy 28, between the feet, right? And you got to kind of get that understanding, have that Hebrew mindset. Don't read the Bible like an American, like a so-called black man or Hispanic or Native American man. Read the Bible like an ancient Israelite and understand how we communicated and conversed, right? So let's go back to Leviticus 15. So now we can really understand what this law is saying. Leviticus 15 and 2. Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, so that flesh is not anywhere, any skin in your body. Speaking about your rod, a running issue is linked to what? Let's pull it up. What are different examples of running issues? Right? What they call, if you go to the so-called white man say I have a running issue, he's not going to know what you say. You got to say I have some of these: urethritis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, non-specific urethritis. God forbid you had these. Acute, but if you have these, the Most High can heal you. Okay, you gotta examine how and why do you have a running issue. Okay, non-specific urethritis, acute prostatitis, Salakia, infection under the foreskin of an uncircumcised penis. You see that? That's where we got to get circumcised. A lot of these other nations, they got penile cancer, and they got a lot of running issues. A lot of these Moabites, they got penile cancer. Let's pull this up. Niggas in China. See that? So China, a lot of Moabites, man. A lot of I want a Moabite. I want my child to have good hair. Right? He got this nasty, woolly hair. I want him to have the Bruce Lee hair. Okay, well, go ahead and get somebody with penile cancer. Right? And a lot of them get penile cancer because they don't get circumcised, man. And they get all that filth, all that backup of filth and gunk. Right? And they get all in they, and they get a running issue. Right? And they start dying. So let's go back to this. So these are certain infection under the foreskin of an uncircumcised penis, warts at the opening of the urethra, herpes simplex virus ulcer at the opening of the urethra. Right? So I'm not going to do an in-depth breakdown on this, But these are examples of running issues. I'm not going to go to images, right? I'm not going to look it up, right? I think we all get the point. And there are many other examples of running issues. But let's say you did have a running issue, and it was fluid coming out of your penis. Well, you're unclean now, right? What do you think? You can just act like that thing's not happening? Now you're touching stuff. Oh, let me grab the. Hold on, let me get that real. Excuse me, Slock, you kid. Oh, shalom. Let me get that. Let me get that cornbread right there. Let me. No, brother, go, brother. You gotta get clean first, brother. You know, and that stuff is serious, man. That's that list we went into. You know, Jake not playing around with all of that, man. You're touching all of the food, and let me just slide this right there. You pick up this piece of bread. I don't want that. When you put it back, you're touching the chicken, and you're flipping this over, and you're slicing this up. No, brother. Right, brother, go through you gotta get clean. But think about when you're in this man's world, how everything is profane. No, and you got these Edomites that be at the grocery stores, and I can see why people be germaphobes. You know, I can see why the Jews had no dealing with the nations, because they all unclean. See, we would purify ourselves, we would wash ourselves, and bathe ourselves after going down to the sun. We're a clean people. But man, being around these damn heathen, man, you gotta shake these Edomite hand, and they're all in their nose, and they got running issues. Now, is having a running issue, does it make you wicked? No, you're not wicked. All right, so let's read on. Leviticus 15:3. Unless you got a running issue for being wicked, because a lot of that stuff we went into for running issues, a lot of that stuff happened because of fornication and lewd sex. But some of it are infections. Some of it could be you got warts, or you had this opening and something happened and you're leaking out. That's heavy judgment, man, brother. Well, that's heavy. You wake up, you got a running issue. That's what the Most High said. All these people that be committing fornication, they got running issues, right? Hebrews chapter 13:4. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge. So if you freaking off from that woman, then you with 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 that woman. Don't be surprised if you get a running issue. That's the Most High judging you for being a whoremonger. Don't be surprised. A woman could have all types of stuff going on too. So let's go back into the law. Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 3. And this shall be his uncleanness and his issue, whether his flesh run with his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue, it is his uncleanness. So your flesh being stopped, it might scab up. It might not be coming out all the way. Might be coming out, might be dripping, might be fluid here. You turn the corner, fluid here, and right? You're still unclean. Every bed, so here's the judgment, or how to handle the matter. Every bed whereon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean. So you can't be trying to lay up with your woman, man. And you got a running issue. Right? Family coming over. Okay, well, you get the guest bed. No, you can sleep in my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. No, brother. You have the running issue. That's your bed. Until you get that thing fixed. Nobody's being in that bed. Right? And everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. So if he sit in the chair, he gotta take that chair with him. Right? He get one of them fold chairs. He come if it's an emergency, and he has to come over, he get one of them folding chairs. And he can't sit on the couch. Ain't no move your seat, lose your seat. Ain't no, this much. No. That brother walking around with the foldy chair, and he got his name on it. Nobody can sit in that chair but him. All right, until he get his spirit right. And whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. So you have to follow these ordinances. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat that hath the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean unto the even. And you have to follow these ordinances. Now, if you don't follow the ordinances and you became unclean, now it becomes a sin. Now it becomes a sin. I'm going to actually jump down real quick. Then I'm going to go back. Now, this is Leviticus chapter 15 and 31. Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. So if you are unclean, is it a sin? It's situational, right? Again, like I gave the example. If you willfully become unclean by touching swine's flesh, you committed an act to make yourself intentionally and purposefully unclean, you are in sin. Right? You touching that pork willingly, knowing that you wasn't supposed to touch it, the carcass of it, you're unclean. You're in sin. They work hand in hand. You can't touch the pork and be in sin without being unclean. You can't touch the pork and be unclean without being in sin. They work in tandem. If you lay down with a woman on her flowers and her flowers be upon you, you are becoming unclean. You're willingly making yourself unclean. Right? If you intentionally touch the carcass of a particular animal, such as a rat or a snake, and you pick it up and you fling it in the air and you put it on your neck, you have willfully made yourself unclean. You have willfully sinned. So if the Most High judges you, it is a direct result of the works that you have put forth. Now, you may be unclean by chance, by accident. You may not have known that somebody was unclean, right? And you touched them, right? You may not have known somebody was unclean and you sat on their couch. You may not know that somebody's unclean and you sat in the chair, right? That's different than the previous example that I just gave. You being unclean in that situation is not a sin because it wasn't done willingly. But if you don't apply the necessary ordinance of washing yourself, your clothes, and bathing yourself in the water before the sun goeth down, then you have made yourself in sin because you didn't follow the instruction of the law for those who are unclean. All right. Because either way, if you touch swine's flesh, you got to wash yourself and your clothes and bathe and be unclean. I mean, be clean when the sun goeth down in the even. And if you did it unintentionally, still got to follow the same ordinance. All right. It's plain. Right. I want to get this real quick in Leviticus 5. So this uncleanliness, right, it can get so-called complex. Right. This Leviticus chapter 5 and 2. Salakia, Leviticus chapter 5 and 2. Or if a soul touch anything, Salakia, or if a soul touch any unclean thing, whether it be a carcass of an unclean beast, or a carcass of an unclean cattle, or the carcass of an unclean creeping things, right? And if it be hidden from him, he may not have known. He shall be unclean and guilty. So the Bible said, guess what? You're guilty if you didn't know. But you can still wash yourself. It's a difference too, because if you willfully know and you do it intentionally, the Most High sees that spirit you're in. He sees the spirit of you willfully grabbing all of the dead carcasses. Now, if you touch it and you didn't know, then you're guilty. Now, why are you guilty? Because you didn't know that you had to wash yourself. That's why you're guilty. Because you didn't follow the ordinance. right? You didn't follow the law. You didn't follow the law because you didn't know. All right. And when you don't follow the law, you're guilty. Rather you know or rather you don't know. So again, being unclean within itself is not a sin. But when you're unclean and don't follow the proper procedure, you are by default guilty, whether it's hidden from you or whether you are aware of it. Let's read on. Leviticus 5:3. Or if he touch the uncleanness of man, whatsoever, like you touch a man's running issue, right? So all on his bed, and if you, or a woman or her flowers, whatsoever uncleanness it be that a man shall be defiled withal, and it be hid from him, when he knoweth of it, then he shall be guilty. So let's say I bumped into a brother, and the brother was unclean, right? And I didn't know, you know. Let's say I didn't know, but I found out 2 weeks from now. The brother said, "Hey, I remember when you bumped me that last time? I've been meaning to tell you I was unclean that day." So what does that mean for me? That means two things. One, he suffered sin upon me because he didn't tell me that he was unclean. If he would have told me he was unclean, then I could have bathed myself and washed my clothes and been clean at the even and followed the law. That's number one. The second thing is I'm guilty anyway because I didn't know. When I find out, what should I do? Well, there are sacrifices in the ancient world for this. Do we have the animal sacrifices and things of that nature? No. If you find out about it, wash yourself, bathe yourself, and just follow the ordinance again. Don't sit there and say, well, it's too late. No, you have to have a good conscience to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahushua in this truth. All right, that's Sirach 14 and 1 on down. So even if you find out that you're unclean, it ain't no, well, hell with it. I'm going to just repent and ask for forgiveness. That's fine. You do that. But then you follow the ordinance and you wash yourself and your clothes or your garment, and you pray for mercy, and then you cleanse yourself and purify yourself according to the law, and you keep this thing going. That's sound judgment. That's sincerity, right? So let's go back to this. Let's go back to Leviticus 15, right? So we're dealing with this uncleanness. And again, you can be unclean for many reasons. You can be unclean for touching a dead body. If you touch a dead body, you're unclean 7 days. So it's a heavier, lengthier uncleanliness. And you purify yourself the 3rd day, pursuant to Deuteronomy 19. You can be unclean for touching a leper. So there's different levels of uncleanliness as well, right? But right now we're touching on Leviticus 15. Right, let me see where I'm at with time. All right, Leviticus 15 to 20. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. Actually, Salakia, I believe I jumped the gun. Oh, yeah, I did jump the gun, Salakia. All right, well, let me get back to this. All right, Leviticus chapter 15 and 14. I'm going to jump down to 16, right, for sake of time, because this is just dealing with the offerings, right? Leviticus 15 and 16. Right, bear with me. Salakia. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean unto the even. So this all your flesh is not just speaking about one body part, right? All his flesh is very specific, that it's talking about your entire body. You don't just get a few drops of water on the same flesh that you read about earlier in this chapter, right? You wash your entire body and you're clean to the even. You see, the copulation is your sperm. If your sperm go out of you, right, because you're laying down with a woman, or it could chance you by night when you read Deuteronomy 23. what they call nocturnal emissions. The world calls it a wet dream. If that happens to you, you still have to follow Leviticus 15 and 16. You wash your whole flesh in water, and you're unclean unto the even. And if you're unclean, it means you cannot go amongst the congregation. You can't be touching brothers, right? You dapping all of the brothers up. You know, you're touching this and you're grabbing that, and no. You're unclean unto the even. So if there was an event going on, a wedding, you wasn't there. Right? If there was a festivity happening, you wasn't there. When the evening came in, you could come. But prior to that, no, you're not there. Okay? And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean unto the even. The woman also, with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean unto the even. So even a woman that has sex with a man, she's unclean. All right. And she has to bathe herself in water, and she's unclean until the even time. When the even time comes in, she's clean. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean unto the even. Right? And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean unto the even. So that's plain. Don't be caked up like you brought up, land up with this woman and your woman on her flower. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean unto the even. And if it be on her bed or on anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean unto the even. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days. So if you want to have sex with her while she's in her period, you're unclean 7 days. And all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. And that's wicked. It ain't no, I'm going to take the chance, I'll be unclean 7 days. No, brother, it's not like something you weigh in the balance. I mean, it's not off. The Lord just says you're unclean longer. 7 days. It's not 1 day, it's 7 days. 7 days ain't that bad. I'll still be. Brother, Leviticus 15 and 24 it's not implying that man has to say so on laying down with this woman where her flowers are not. It's not what it's saying. It's telling you not to do it. But it's telling you the weightier matter of uncleanliness. All right. And if a woman have an issue of her blood, many days out of the time of her separation. So let's say she's has her flower and the 7 days go by of her separation and it's the 8th day and she still has her flower. Then there's laws on how to deal with that. Another thing, if a woman's period only lasts 3 days, 5 days, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have to wait the whole 7 days. No, she still has to wait the 7 days. Right? Because I've heard that too. Oh, well, my woman's flower is only 3 days, 4 days. The Bible says 7 days. Should I do the whole 7 or should I, it's 4 fine because I don't see any blood. No, what did the Most High say? Right? Right? The Most High says 7 and it's 7. Well, I don't see no blood. It was spotting. It was spotting a little bit, but then the spot kind of went away. It's one spot here, but no spot next day. 2 minutes went by. Brother, just follow the law. Just follow the law. 7 days, brother. Just wait. All right. Jake always got a lot of technical questions when it comes to being clean and being unclean. Just follow the law. The Most High didn't make this hard to understand. And if there was something that had to be expounded upon, you had men that taught the law to get the right understanding and the right judgment when it came to the law. Lest man lean on his own understanding. That's why you have teachers of the law. The priests would go out and they would teach the law. So if there were questions, okay, well, what about in this situation? Or, okay, well, this unforeseen circumstance happened. How do I handle this matter? Well, there, the law, he would, it's like the man of the Lord would go into the law and say, okay, well, look here. Here's this judgment. Here's the law. Here's how you apply the right precept. Here's the equitable stance. And this is how you come out keeping the law. All right, that's how it goes. Because you do have different circumstances, like I presented. A woman's flower may run shorter than the allotted time that the Most High gave, but she still has to run her separation for that time. You know, same thing with the birth of a child, the 80 days and the 40 days, that still has to run. No matter what biological enhancements or precedents you have. Or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation, she shall be unclean. Every bed whereon she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation. And whosoever, whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. So this is like the woman with the issue of blood. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. Right? So these are particular laws that deal with uncleanliness. Like I said, there's more laws. Like when you read Leviticus 11, 40 on down, and many precepts that go, even if you ate something that was unclean, right? There's a law on that, right? You're unclean until the even, you got to wash your clothes. If you touch the carcass or if you ate something, you're still unclean until the even. You have to purify your body. You have to cleanse yourself. All right. So, I encourage brothers to read Leviticus 11 as well and go into the law, because you have laws that deal with, if a fly lands in a pot and it dies or something else happens in your household, there are laws on how to keep your household clean as well. So with that, I'm going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. Tune in to the Watchman Wednesdays, right? The brothers in WFI Philly, Jersey, they do the Watchman Wednesdays. I mean, they're going to breaking news. I mean, hot information, man. The world is on the brink of war. So tune into that. They're going into quote unquote Disease X, World War III, and many other things that are coming to pass on the earth. So with that, Yahweh Shema Mashiach Kwam Yashah. Shalom.